to the Mike on Much podcast. I'm your host, Mike Green. I'm here with my friend and trusty producer, Max Kerman. We are also here with our pop culture aficionado, Shane Cunningham. Now, today on the show, our featured guest is Stephen Page, formerly of Barenaked Ladies.
Lying in bed.
It's been...
Everybody has a Stephen Page impression. We will get to Stephen in a bit. He's got a record out, and I loved my conversation with Stephen. We will set that up in a little bit. But first, fellas, this is a big deal. I feel like every episode lately has been a big deal because we have something new to announce. It is not only Max and Shane and myself here today. We're also here with our friend and new podcaster, Jonathan Popalis. John.
How's it going?
Wait, I was supposed to ask you.
Oh, okay. Well, sure. Ask me.
John, how's it going?
It's going great, Mike.
Thanks for joining us here today. Does anyone want to tell our listeners why John is joining us on the Mike on Much podcast right now?
It would feel like bragging if I said it. So, Max, you take over.
Why?
Because you're excluded from it, so I figure you could.
Oh, sure. Well, the guys basically started their own spin-off podcast, which I'm not a part of, and it's going to be part of the Mike on Much feed, right? We're putting it in the Mike on Much podcast, and you can find it here. And they're going to be reviewing, there's 10 movies, 10 classic films, and they're going to be talking about their strengths and how they hold up, right?
Yeah, it's called the Pedestal.
Yeah.
So movies that have been on a pedestal, we're going to watch them again in 2018 and decide whether it's worthy of still being on the pedestal.
Each episode, we spend like half the episode, like we kind of break it in half, where we actually kind of argue over. First half is whether it deserves to be on the pedestal. We'll take one of the movies was like Blair Witch Project.
Sure.
And so we spend half of it being like, what? Like, why in the first place was it put on the pedestal in the first place? Does it still hold up? What are the best characters, best parts, things like that? And then we flip it over in the second half and go, maybe why doesn't this deserve to be on the pedestal? Which is kind of just half an episode of talking shit about old movies.
Sure. And do you guys, would you say you typically align with your movie tastes?
That's something listeners are going to have to find out for themselves, right? Because we have 10 episodes, like the guy said. Also, I think the origin of the podcast is interesting because this is something that was created. I'm actually not totally sure. From my perspective, we were chugging along doing the Mike on Much podcast. Shane came to my desk one day and basically just said, you guys had this idea for a podcast, or how did it come about? Tell the people.
John and I were talking.
And John works in the building.
John works in the
building. He has a similar job to you,
yes,
producer, but
it's right. Award-winning director of all sorts of commercials and campaigns. He's basically exactly like for ostensibly he does what we do, right? You direct commercials, you write commercials, you win awards,
films as well, and
you do short films. That's right.
Yeah.
Name 2 of your short films.
W4M and Dumb Luck are 2 of them. Tannenbaum.
And people can find those, right?
Yep. And one of them is an Arkell song, and
that's right.
One of my most recent ones.
That's right. And he charged you a ton for sync.
He did.
Right?
It was ridiculous.
I
broke
up our friendship. Yeah.
But we were having a conversation via text, and then I said, "Oh, this would be a great podcast conversation. We should make a podcast."
Yeah.
And then Popalis was down, and then
the conversation was specifically about Dumb and Dumber.
It was
specifically about how I've loved Dumb and Dumber so much since I was a kid, but I'm like I've never really. When's the last time I actually took a step back and really thought about, is this actually a good movie?
Sure.
Or do I just love it because my 10-year-old self?
I've been saying the same thing about Rush Hour. I'm like, that's the best film.
Chris Tucker?
Yeah.
Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
Never touch a black man's radio.
Yeah, exactly. Who do you think you got? Chelsea Grandma? Do you remember the outtakes at the end?
Well, that's racist, Max.
No.
I'm kidding.
He was imitating Jackie Chan.
So anyway, Rush Hour impersonations aside, I approached Mike and I was like, what do you think if we put it under the Mike on Much umbrella? And then Mike kind of had a look on his face it'd just be you two guys. I was like, yeah. And this was at a particular time where a lot was coming at Mike, and I felt like maybe he was overwhelmed with work. So I didn't want to ask him to stress him out, but he was like, I want to be a part of this. He's like, I think this is going to be good. And I'm a movie guy. I love movies.
That's true.
So I was like, shit, yeah, this is great. I just don't want to kill Mike because you have a lot on your plate.
I certainly remember that time, and it definitely, your read on my situation was correct.
I think our friends can usually tell when any of us are kind of like, okay, that guy's at his breaking point.
He's
right
in
now.
the shit right now.
Yeah.
But my extreme FOMO and because I thought it was such a great idea with Pedestal, I was like, I don't care if it kills me. And it's like
that typically is what causes all of our worlds to spiral. Is that it's just like kind of probably doing too much and like booking ourselves a little, like spreading ourselves a little too thin, but then also having the FOMO.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I'm
god!
the same.
that
Like, I
combination.
feel like I just say, if anyone asks me anything, I just always kind of say yes and just kind of figure it out later. It's like, yeah, of course.
I'll make the
do
time.
that.
I'll make
Because
Yeah,
of course the thing you say no to will be this huge success, and then when you say yes, it's always I've made a terrible mistake.
Like everything I've said yes to.
How is this different than the Ringer's rewatchables?
Well, rewatchables is, I guess, just picking any film and saying, is this worth rewatching?
Sure.
We're picking classic films that are on a pedestal.
That are like that top tier.
Yeah, so-
People hold, I think, in general, in high esteem.
Sure,
They're
sure.
considered classics
But I
on
also
some level.
think in rewatchables, it is kind of like from mostly like a love fest on those old. Like, they kind of taking like Point Break and they'll do nitpick stuff, but for the most part, they're talking about why do we love this movie so
Sure,
much.
sure.
We will take movies like no matter what, even if there's Dumb and Dumber, for instances, when we do, we will spend half the episode talking how much we love it, but we do dive deep into things that are like really wrong with these movies.
And our personalities are just different. Like,
course, of
what's
course.
Mike on Much? How's it different than any three white dudes talking, right? Like, I'm not so concerned about we're the most different thing. We just have unique perspectives.
Sure,
And
sure.
Yeah, Shane's
John's
pretty
a
funny.
Mensa member, and he's like kind of like a beautiful
He's
mind.
known to drop that at a party.
Yeah, of course.
He and our friend Dan Hamilton.
I don't know.
Wait, Dan's a Mensa member?
Oh, Dan proudly is a Mensa member.
Is he actually?
You haven't talked about this with
Never.
Dan at a party?
Never.
I figure that's the first thing that comes up, like if
Never.
you're a vegetarian or
Oh, wow.
something. You know?
Bring this up. I gotta
Well, I
chat
think
with
we
him about this.
mentioned John's Mensa membership in 6 of the 10 episodes.
Every episode.
Well, that was one of your conditions when we started
Oh,
dating.
yeah, thanks.
So you've never seen Dan at like a meeting or anything?
Oh yeah, all those Mensa meetings. I go.
Daniel, Jonathan,
We're not supposed to talk about outside the Mensa meetings.
62 times 3,000. They just all start. They hit
we
each
all
other.
like idiot savants. Anyway,
I would have just used savant, but
I don't know. Pretty dumb.
And John's worked with you guys for a long time, and you've known John longer than me. But then the first time I met John was at your old apartment, and we were watching basketball.
oh, we were watching hoops at my old apartment.
yeah.
Drinking rum
then-
out of your freezer.
Right.
It's been. You're making a Barenaked Ladies reference.
No, I wasn't. The
Oh,
old
I thought
apartment.
you wanted to do
I
Bare
wish
Naked
I was that
Fun.
clever. No.
Hey, by the way, before I get to that, you said it's been. That's from
Nirvana the band.
Nirvana the band.
But it's also from a lot of things.
Comedy
okay.
Bang Bang.
Yeah.
They do that all the time.
Yeah, because I know you're considered a bit of a comedy genius, Shane. At least
I am.
Yeah, but Greg goes, oh no, he just stole that from this. Oh, he just stole that. From
Oh,
that.
my brother says
yeah.
that?
Yeah,
Whoop.
yeah.
Oh, jeez.
What?
You're going
Like-
to set him off.
Like,
Oh boy.
First off, I wear my influences on my sleeve,
Sure.
and any time I do it, I'm like, "Oh, this is from that." Like you said, hurt people the other day.
Yeah.
That's a common saying, but that's also from Greenberg, and that's something I started saying from Greenberg, and then other people started saying it, and then I
Sure.
was like, "Hey, I'm the one who stole that from Greenberg."
Sure.
But yeah, anything like when I say prove it, that's from the movie Big Daddy, where Jon Stewart says it in the middle of an Adam Sandler speech. I always fess up to everything,
sure.
and that's what makes us, right? Our influence.
No, it's true. That is very true.
Where's It's going to be a good night from?
That I actually did make up. That's from.
Congrats. That stuck.
Yeah.
That is
gonna be
from
a
my
good
yeah, I did that in my first failed VJ search video. I was hanging out with
referencing-
some girls, and I didn't know what to say, so I decided to do an improv line. I just went, "It's going to be a good night." The implication that I'm going to be having sex with these two girls,
Yeah.
which of course I didn't.
Comedy genius.
Yeah,
Anyway, sorry, I digressed earlier. But then John, who I just met for the first time that night, says, "You know my girlfriend at the time."
She was
I
my
think.
girlfriend at the time.
And I was like, "Who's your girlfriend?" And it's an old high school friend of mine, Sarah Carpentier, who I had not heard or seen of in a long time. And you guys were dating for a couple of years, and now you're married with
We're
a kid.
married. We have a baby.
Yeah, it's a small world.
We have old yearbooks with all Max
Oh
pictures
God, I
in
can
them.
never see that.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. Does Max have like quotes and shit in his yearbook?
I don't know about quotes, but there are black and white pictures, and
Oh,
it's
jeez.
hilarious. I've sent him pictures.
Does your wife Sarah say that Max was a popular high school kid? Or?
Yeah, you were school president.
I
You
was
were
school president.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yep.
liked by all.
Yeah, but it was pretty much the same as I am now. Like in terms of the same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Did you have any enemies in high school?
I don't think so. No.
Wow.
Our school wasn't. When I'm actually kind of grateful for this. So not to get off topic, is that it wasn't like the typical high school experience where there's like the jocks and the cheerleaders and the nerds and the whatever. It was like 65% like Asian kids, like 20% 25% like Italian and Portuguese. Like everyone just like kind of cared about their own business. It wasn't like that typical like Western high school experience. And so I didn't have any of the trauma.
It has something to do with it being sort of like a downtown.
Yeah, it was like a
Toronto.
downtown Toronto high school. So
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't suffer from any like the classic high school movie stuff.
Speaking of high school movies, we don't review The Breakfast Club, but we do review 10 other great films.
Are you going to tell us?
You're a
which
master of the
ones?
segue.
Thank you.
Is Breakfast Club a movie that's on a pedestal for you?
I think so.
I think so.
I'd like to talk about it.
I think
'cause
I
have-
think John Hughes, as far as his like canon, people probably consider that. I think a lot of people put that number one for themselves.
Yeah.
above Ferris Bueller.
Maybe Ferris. There might be some Dark Horse Uncle Buck people out there.
I
I would
love
love Uncle Buck.
This is a preview of the pedestal right now, guys. Also, something for the listeners. If you do go, like we said, there's going to be 10 episodes dropped on its own pedestal feed, but we're going to sneak one onto the Mike on Much feed. We're going to
Just so you get a taste.
a sample
Yeah.
episode.
Why don't we put them all up? Or is that
Because it's going to
confusing?
look ugly and be confusing, and
You put
people
a
might.
couple. You'll something will be on this feed.
There'll
Yeah.
be definitely one, by the time you
I'm
hear
into
this.
consolidating it.
Yeah,
personally.
so by the time you hear this one,
Sure.
there will definitely be one up, and maybe we'll sprinkle another one in a week or two. Maybe we'll hit you with a couple, but you can always, if you're digging what you hear or you want to hear one of the specific movies, go over to its main pedestal feed, and you will hear on maybe the first 4. I actually struggled with the word pedestal. I kept saying pedestal.
It's the first thing you
weird.
say in the first episode.
I don't know why. I had trouble with that word.
You're a good talker too. That's weird.
Fuck.
Guys, and why am I not on this podcast?
I thought they asked you. You were supposed to come on the Space Jam.
I think I
episode.
was.
Yeah,
supposed
you
to.
were.
Yeah.
I don't know. why
You're
I
not a big movie guy.
No, I'm really not.
So there you go. I think that's your answer.
The last conversation I remember we had on the podcast, and I don't even know if it made one of our episodes because we went on for a while, is that you had gone and seen Hail Caesar by the Coen brothers.
Oh, yeah.
And you came in and we recorded a pod. This is like whatever, it would have been 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And you were like, Hail Caesar's being praised by everybody. He's like, everybody loves him. He's, I didn't like it. Because I went and saw it with Lauren. He's like, it was whatever. He's like, and then 2 days later, I went and saw How to Be Single with Dakota Johnson and Rebel Wilson. It's like, it was so good.
So then I lost all my credibility. Basically.
I won't say you lost your credibility. And there's something honest about that. And I did see a bit of How to... I think Anders Holm is also in How to Be Single.
Is he?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I know you're a big...
Workaholics guy.
Yeah.
You don't really like challenging films, though.
Sometimes I do. I think here's my issue is that I need, if I'm gonna watch a good movie, like basically any movie, I have to be in the movie theater. I just
Oh.
that's my problem. Is that if I'm at home, I am not immersed in it as I should.
What's your favorite art film?
art film? Blue is the warmest color.
That's like a porno, Max.
Oh,
And we
it's
all
not
know
a
why
point.
you
It's
like
a good
it.
move, but
Well, okay, name me some art films. I'll tell you if I like it.
Is there any Coen brother film that you like?
I love the Coen Brothers.
Okay.
yeah. So there's some pretty.
Did you like There Will Be Blood?
I never watched that movie actually, which is crazy.
Like Coen Brothers. You like No Country for Old Men?
Yeah, I love
That's
No Country
pretty-
for Old
Okay,
Men.
good, yeah.
I love No Country. I love what's the A Serious Man? A
Serious Man?
I love
Yeah, I like
Because
that
that's
movie.
Jewish.
TIFF.
Yeah, anything Jewy related, I'm kind of into.
So we'll have you on
Should we
season
really?
2 as a guest star.
I'll be the Jewish voice in the room.
Yes.
Oy vey. I'm a quarter Jewish, by the way.
Oh, you just found that out, right?
I did just
That's
find that out.
exciting.
Did you do like an ancestry test?
23andMe?
My mom did because my mom wanted to know what my mom's gonna be pissed that I'm saying this, but she wanted to find out like what area of Greece, like because her last name's Popalis, what area of Greek she's from, and she finds out that she is 50% Jewish because her dad is Jewish.
Wow.
So all of
Isn't
us,
that crazy?
So all of us, and then she like redid another test, and same results come.
Did you get a
back,
bar
and-
mitzvah after that?
No, I should get one though,
You
right?
should.
Well, 2 of your best friends are Jewish, I believe.
All of my friends.
Did you immediately call them and be like,
That's the first thing
my
I did.
brothers?
Yeah, the very
We are the
literally.
chosen one!
My friend Samir, it's the first thing I did. We were just talking about it over the weekend. I'm like, you're gonna have to sit down. I'm Jewish now.
That's great.
Wait, what?
That idea of like your whole life storyline being completely upended when you're like the age of 30. You're like, I've been telling myself the story of who I am.
Yeah. It's
and
crazy.
And it just being actually
Yeah.
quite different.
Yeah, it's wild. It's cool.
Would you guys do those ancestry tests to find out your background?
Yeah, well,
If I could afford it, yeah.
they're like $200, man.
I am broke, guys.
I brought you all here for a reason. It starts into a Ponzi scheme. If you all invest $500 each,
No, but it's $200, right?
a Ponzi scheme, it's whatever you say.
No,
to that.
no, no. No,
Man, those
the
reversals.
23andMe.
I don't know. I've never looked into it.
You know what's funny? Actually, my dad just did one recently, and he came home and he was like, "Guys, I'm so disappointed in my ancestry." He's like, "I'm just 100% Ashkenazi Jew. It sucks." He was like, "I was hoping for a little Oriental. I was hoping for a
That's
little
such a
bit
self-hating Jew. thing
Yeah,
to
I
say.
know. Well, he was just like, I was hoping for just like something interesting in there, but it's like 97% Eastern European, basically.
Fine political movie.
The
Get
Ides
off
of
my
March.
plane.
Oh, yeah,
That's not a political movie.
Air Force One.
He's a president. I guess it's political.
It's not bad.
What's more political than that?
Harrison Ford,
All
Air
the
Force
President's Men, probably.
That's a classic.
You know, I like a political movie. Wag the Dog.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's kind of a high-end movie, right?
I think Election might actually be because that's
High
sort
school
of
politics.
Well, but it sort of speaks to the idea of politics in general and how elections work and how even on this macro level how ridiculous the whole. I think Election's one of the greatest movies of all time.
I know people didn't love it, but that George Clooney, Ryan Gosling movie from a couple of years ago.
Ides of March.
Oh, Ides of March, right.
Yeah.
And here's that. Yeah, I like that movie.
I
But
thought that was
I
a
love
very
political movies, actually.
Political thrillers.
Yeah, political thrillers.
And I was just trying to segue back to the pedestal.
Sure.
Yeah, good job.
Should we be saying what movies we did in these
That's a
first
good
10
tease.
episodes?
Let's do
Yeah.
it.
So the first one we did was Star Trek 4.
Yep.
The Voyage Home. Dumb and Dumber. Blair Witch Project. See if I can do this off the top of my head. Number 4 was Goldfinger, James Bond from 1964.
Goldfinger. That's all I kept doing that whole week.
I know you did. And then we did Space Jam.
Which led to a very heated debate about whether or
Very.
not Ray Allen is a good actor.
Oh, yeah.
Did this pop up in other conversations?
Yeah, I was
feel
asked
he's
about
a good
it.
actor.
I think he's good.
Shane thinks that he's
Shane
stiff
is
as a board.
his face.
One ridiculous monotone note he has. That's it.
Plays it well.
No
Worked for
facial
me.
expression.
Yeah.
Anyone can do that.
Listen to that episode though if you want to hear me and Shane get into it about Ray Allen.
We did Coming to America.
Oh, yeah.
We did Full Metal Jacket. We did Airplane. The last one is Jaws, but
Yeah.
it feels like I'm missing one.
Garden State.
Oh, can't forget Garden State.
Did you like Garden State when it
I
came out?
love
Max?
Garden State. That soundtrack I love, too.
So did we.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen to the episode.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
When Garden State first came out, I've said in these, but I'll say it again, that it felt like it was like an explosion in my life.
Yeah.
I felt like that's it. There's all
The
movies,
first indie blockbuster.
Yeah, this movie speaks to me.
It blew
Yeah.
my mind. Like I can't believe a movie like this exists.
What was the bigger revelation for you? Seeing Garden State for the first time or learning you're Jewish?
Oh, the Jewish one blew my mind.
Yeah.
1A, 1B.
There you go.
All right, let's get to Stephen Page.
It's been.
Yes, let's get to Mr. Stephen Page. We've talked on this podcast before about how much we love the Barenaked Ladies.
Yeah.
Huge part of our sort of youth and growing up, and how much those songs resonated. Of course, Stephen left the Barenaked Ladies about a decade ago. We get into a lot of that in the conversation.
Here's my question. You've interviewed Ed Robertson and you've interviewed Stephen Page. Just from those brief interactions, do you have any sense of why these two guys just can't get along?
That's a good question. No, because here's the thing: is they're both incredibly nice and smart and engaging and charismatic. But I think that they probably both have very strong views of what they want to do and how they want to proceed, and they're just slightly different enough where I think Ed, is a little bit of he's a bit of an everyman and a people pleaser, and I think Stephen has that too. But I think Stephen also falls a little bit more on the defiant side of creative and celebrity, and we talk about that in the interview.
Interesting.
And maybe that's sort of a little bit of the divide there.
Also, Jewish.
That's right.
Oh.
And you know what? This is actually very thematic because that comes up right
Yeah.
off the top of the interview, which you prepped. In the
I didn't know
questions.
he was Jewish all these years, and then I was doing some research for the interview.
We're everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, and
We're everywhere.
So, my conversation with Stephen Page. His album is called "Heal Thyself Part 2." It's out. I listened to a lot of it leading up to the record. We talk about a bunch of the songs, and we talk about, like I said, just a long career and sort of how he views the legacy with Barenaked Ladies, and that relationship, in sort of how he perceives what he owes to the fans or what he doesn't. And honestly, I kind of geeked out, and at the end, I even was like, man, I love your music. And, whenever you talk to these people that you sort of grew up listening to, it really sort of resonates. So,
And the songs hold up. Speaking of, does it hold up or does it not? Those
On the
records hold
pedestal?
up. Yeah. on the
Barenaked
pedestal.
Ladies
Yeah.
remain on the pedestal. For our listeners, if you were just tuning in because maybe you're a big Stephen Page fan or a Barenaked Ladies fan, we have over 100 episodes. We talk to musicians, directors, actors, all sorts of people. You can find us everywhere podcasts are found. iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube if you want to listen at your desk. And now, for the first time ever, we're pleased. We are pleased. Pleased, ladies and gentlemen. We are pleased to let you know that you can find the pedestal, all the places you find your podcast, specifically where you find our podcast. Check it out. It's myself, Shane Cunningham, and of course, Mensa member Jonathan Popalis, talking about 10 different movies, 10 episodes. Binge it over the holidays. Binge it this weekend. We don't care. We just hope you listen to it, and we hope that you like hanging out with us while we talk about movies, because we certainly love movies, and it was a labor of love to do it. So, guys, I think it's that time. Want to get to Stephen Page?
Let's get to it.
You know, well, we're rolling right now. If you didn't
That's
know,
fine.
I think you're.
I figured it out.
Yeah. Are you a big record head? I was actually
Yeah.
watching a couple, I guess, around the Junos when you were doing the induction and the reunion show. You did I think it was a YouTube show where you were listening to old vinyls and you were sort of describing exactly how stuff was recorded and going into the songs. One of them was Jane, and you were talking about how Jane and St. Clair was the street. Somehow I never knew that. Had you talked about that before? You
Yeah, I think
listened?
so.
Oh man. Anyway, it was nice to listen to you sort of talk about it and see the sort of the appreciation. Are you one of those people that has like a house full of records?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love records. I mean, I don't care what format they're on, whether it's vinyl or cassette or CD or on my computer, but I love music and I love to. But I do actually like having the package of a vinyl record and the experience of listening to it as well.
Yeah. I want to start with this new record because actually when my producer and I were talking about how we're going to be talking to you today, we're talking about the song White Noise, and you mentioned in the song, you know, that you're Jewish, and we were just like, that never even really occurred to us. Like, you just never even think about it.
Right.
But I guess my question would be, like, did you grow up in like a religious household? Was that like sort of a big part of your identity growing up?
Well, it was kind of yes. I mean, it was a big part of my identity. We were we weren't Orthodox, but we went to synagogue regularly.
Sure.
I went to Hebrew school and had a bar mitzvah and all that kind of stuff, and went to Israel as a teenager. But I grew up in a school where I was like the only Jewish kid I knew. I grew up in Scarborough, which was pretty white bread back then. Very kind of Wayne's World, white bread, Scarborough. And so for me at the time as a kid, having to take the bus an hour and a half twice a week to go to Hebrew school felt like this... well, to mix metaphors, a cross I had to bear, as another Jew once had to do. You know, and not to compare. I mean, my pain is much greater than
The suffering might have been a little less, yeah.
Yeah, but I did have a certain amount of suffering being a Jew in Scarborough. It's kind of like, that's how I felt at the time.
Of course,
it was fun. Like I felt like I'm a weirdo, and so I kind of had to like stick to my identity that way.
You felt other, so you really sort of leaned in.
Yeah,
as
I guess
opposed
so.
to sort of trying to assimilate or
That's
whatever.
right.
Yeah, it's funny how you can go both ways with those things, and how children sort of.
And as a kid too, you can be kind of like it can be a little embarrassing. Just kind of tone it down, kid. It's okay. You don't have to kind of make a big deal of your matzah on Passover.
What'd your parents do?
My parents both teachers.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Musicians.
My mother was not a musician, but a huge music fan, and like even in the '60s went to. Oscar Peterson had a school of jazz appreciation down in Rosedale. So it was like Oscar Peterson ran it with all these great musicians like Ed Bickert and Ray Brown and stuff, like teaching the classes.
Cool.
My dad was a drummer and played in jazz bands and wedding bands and all kinds of stuff like that.
So he gigged.
Yep, he gigged.
That's cool.
Less and less as I got older, and then when I started the band, B&L, back in '88. We were doing that for a few years, and then we made the Yellow Tape, which was our big indie
that
breakthrough
was the
cassette thing. And what was starting to happen was we'd made that as a demo to take to South by Southwest because we had
to try and get a record deal. So
right,
exactly.
So we thought we had a tape that we'd made before that on an 8-track or 4-track,
like one of those like Tascam 4-track things.
Exactly.
Oh, I had one of those.
And Ed had one, so we made a tape of us in, like, some of it was recorded in my parents' basement and some was in his parents' basement, and we were selling that. But the duplication place that we had it duplicated at had like sped it up, so it sounded like chipmunks kind of. But we were selling that anyways, and. We thought, okay, before we go to South by Southwest, we should do a real demo. So we got one night at a studio.
I bet you it cost a fortune back then too.
Well, yeah. So what you'd do is, like, we went to Wellesley Sound, and you'd get a night block, like from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Was the cheapest
because no one else wanted to use the studio.
That's
at that
right.
time.
So that was the only time you could get it for cheap-ish, and then you have to pay for a reel of tape too, which was the only reason why we have the Public Enemy cover at the end.
Oh.
because we had like a minute and a half left of tape, you didn't want to waste it. So we just did that until the tape ran out.
Yeah.
So we had this tape for South by Southwest, which we weren't officially part of. Like, they would have Canadian Showcase,
Of course.
or whatever.
But you were just going down Rogue and handing stuff out.
we applied for the Canadian Showcase, and like everything at that time, we got turned down. They're always like, "Yeah, it's a joke band. This is not a real band. We don't want to be associated with them." But we went down anyways. We said, "Okay, we'll see them." We just decided we'd set up out front of the Canadian Showcase and busk, which is what we would do. Just whenever we couldn't get into something, we'd just stand out front and play.
Yeah.
And luckily for us, one of the bands on that bill couldn't get across the border, so they ran out and like, "Can you come and do a set?" So we did end up doing like 2 sets that night anyways, but came back. We didn't get a record deal from that, but we had a good experience, saw lots of great bands and met people, and came back up to Toronto, had some tapes left over, and started selling them off the stage, and started getting calls from Sam the Record Man and HMV and places like asking for the tape.
Yeah.
So we didn't have any money to pay for the amount of tapes that they wanted. So my dad said, "Well, I'll partner with you. I'll set this up and I'll do the distribution for you." So he ended up starting an indie distributor,
A record label. And
a record label, and he ran that for, he had stopped teaching by that point and ran it for like 6 years or something after that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, and like that tape did really well. So I'm sure did he make his money back on all the things set up?
Well, yes, I think he made his money back on that, but I think then he just started doing it for more and more bands. Did it for Lowest of the Low, and
gotcha. So then he sort of expanded.
Yeah,
He's like,
became
I'm doing this now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Became kind of the indie distributor for a lot of different artists, and where they actually had full warehouse space and everything else.
Wow. Obviously this record's coming out in a couple days, and you continue to tour, and I'm interested in sort of your songwriting process. Like, what's your routine? Like, are you sort of like workmanlike, meaning like I wake up in the morning, put my pants on, I write a song, or is it sort of therapeutic in the sense that it's like I need to get this off my chest? How do you approach it?
It's kind of neither. I feel like it should be the former. The paint when the light is good kind of idea, and I'm too much of a procrastinator for that, and my life is kind of too unpredictable too. It's like I'm on the road a lot, and I've always had these great fantasies of being able to write on the road, which I've never done because your day is so full.
Sure.
And I put so much of my energy into the show. I'm not like I don't know where the writing time goes. Although touring with Craig Northey, I've actually done more writing on the road than I had ever done before. And then when I get home, I kind of want to do home stuff. And then I go, I guess I got to go write a song. And sometimes songs just come. Like, that's my favorite songs, the ones that just kind of come and you have to just get it out of you. They come quickly. The ones you have to labor over sometimes stick with you for years until you kind of figure out what that song actually is. And you're glad they're out. But
they were laborious.
They're laborious.
Yeah, exactly.
You never feel like they've been quite as clean.
Sure, it doesn't have probably the same feeling as the
They're
ones.
They're kind of like they're taking different kinds of dumps. Really.
Yeah, but it can be satisfying.
The kind where you
after a
barely have to
dump.
wipe is like the greatest song ever.
That's true. That is true. The less work, sort of the more satisfying in some ways.
Where it's like a colonic. You think, oh, that's probably good for me. I got it out there, but this didn't feel good.
I didn't enjoy the process.
No.
Where do you stand on this new record? For me, just when I was going through all the tracks, really stood out. I mean, it feels very of this time. Mm-hmm. Are you somebody that sort of has been watching sort of what's going on in the world? And I mean, White Noise gets at this, obviously,
sure.
And you feel, I kind of need to write about this stuff because this is, I'm staying up at night and I'm thinking about these things. I'm watching the news, I'm consuming it. Or do you feel like you're kind of, like, I guess what I'm getting at is it personal to write these things, or are you sort of more observational?
No, it's personal.
Yeah.
I think, there are elements of being an observer on this record. But I think, especially as you start talking political stuff, if you don't make it personal, it feels like finger wagging. Again, and I don't have a lot of patience for that. And I don't see a lot of value in it, at least in my experience in music. When the political and personal are the same, that's far more interesting to me, and I think that connects with far more people. So a song like "Where Do You Stand," I actually wrote it for a musical that I've written with Daniel McIver, the Canadian playwright. And that actually takes place in the 80s, and that's where it's during the AIDS crisis.
Interesting.
But I wrote it from a point of view of me now. I was thinking about, I watch fellow musicians say things like, if you don't stand up for what you believe, then if you don't write about political stuff, then you're against us, or you're
sitting it
you're
out,
part of the
so
problem.
you're actively hurting it.
That's
yeah.
right. And I had decided to sit it out on the social media front because, well, first of all, I was always, when I lived here in Canada, was always very politically active, and that alienates some people, but I don't care about that. I don't mind having discourse, but social media isn't the place for discourse. It's just a place. My skin is too thin for the trolls, and it's not a place where I can have a discussion. And then I realized I'm not here for the discussion. I'm an artist, and my job is to write about what I'm trying to process. What are my values? And the song "Where Do You Stand" is like wrestling with how much of yourself do you give away to people, and how much of a sellout are you if you keep it too close to your chest too.
If you hold back.
Yeah. If you don't draw a line and say this is where my values are, then are you just a phony?
Yeah. I wanted to ask about obviously there's a guy that wrote this sort of tune, Brian Wilson, which is like this massive song. What do you think the qualities are that sets it apart? I mean, can you define what makes something sort of resonate so much with people, and what's going to be a hit, and what's, just another song?
I'm bad at that. I think like with Brian Wilson, I think it's largely about nostalgia for people.
You're right. The hook right away, the name of the song, you go, oh, that's interesting. I'm gonna
Right. There's that, and then people just think about, now when they hear it, they think about when they used to hear it before, like where they first heard the song, or what it reminds them of in their own lives. Like
that might be why it lives, but why do you think initially it was like?
Right. Well, my inspiration for the song musically was I was thinking about a song like "Home for a Rest" by Spirit of the West.
Yep.
It starts with the slow verse that then gets repeated at the end, up tempo.
Yep.
And that it had, and so that was like what I was thinking of, was how to start a song that had this kind of ballad beginning, but had a raucous ending. But then it's got these like two different bridges in the middle, and that's part of it is just like I didn't know what I was doing, which is I love about the song, that it has this sense of like I didn't know what you were supposed to do in a song. I didn't know where chords were supposed to go, so I just wrote stuff that followed the melody.
Yeah.
So that meant the melody was strong, I guess, and the fact that people didn't necessarily know what the song was about, especially at that time. I mean, the other inspiration was the Replacement song, Alex Chilton. So they had the song about Alex Chilton and his music, and I thought, like, what a cool thing to have one of your heroes as the title of the song, and a way to introduce, whether it's intentional or not, it was a way for me to be introduced to Alex Chilton's music, and Big Star, and I had just really gotten into the lore and the music of the Beach Boys. I always hated the Beach Boys growing up. I always thought they were like lightweight, I don't know, kind of just, it was nothing to me.
Sure.
All I knew was the kind of surf songs, and fun, which I love all that stuff now.
Yeah.
But at the time, it didn't resonate with me the way the Beatles did. And that was kind of everything to me. And the Beach Boys also, this is, when I was first aware of them, was the mid 70s. So they were America's band. It was kind of, they had this rah-rah Republican kind of vibe to them. Like, it just seemed like,
yeah,
like
part of the propaganda.
Yeah, and
sure.
not part of the subculture.
Yeah,
and
which is how they were presenting.
That's right. But when I was in university, I had a friend there who said, no, here, I'll make you a tape, because that was the golden age of the mixtape. I made him a mixtape of Leonard Cohen, and he made me a mixtape of Velvet Underground and of the Beach Boys, but also told me the whole story, and I started to really get into it. And so writing this song, I don't even know how conscious I was of the fact that I was writing about my own depression. But I understood that at that point people would talk about Brian Wilson spending all his time lying in bed, and people just used it as something. It was kind of like a punchline to a joke at the time.
Yeah.
It was less about mental illness or substance abuse.
It was more like, oh, this eccentric sort of.
That's right.
It adds to the lore, but not like, wow, this guy's really suffering.
Right. It was more like he was a '60s casualty.
You got it.
And that was kind of like in the '80s, at least, that seemed like a funny thing, quirky and funny thing. And I tried to write something that had a little bit more, that connected to that and didn't make it seem as laughable or as weird. Although there's still that sense of humor. But the same thing happened with the Be My Yoko Ono song. It's kind of a dumb song, but in general, the point was to take the mythology of the '60s, that something was wacky and difficult to understand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that like the whole sort of the way they were framed, John and Yoko, was in this sort of very like, oh, they're being weird and idiosyncratic, and their love is sort of like, are they just kind of, is it a put on? What's up with them?
That's right.
And the song sort of made it into this very sweet sort of like, well, what's the other side, which is love and devotion.
Right. And yeah, wouldn't we all like to have a relationship like that?
Absolutely. I was lucky enough to be at the rehearsal for, I mean, you guys did the, like I alluded to off the top, at the Junos this year, when you guys got together, I guess, for like almost a decade it was, since you guys performed together. So I was in the rehearsal, luckily, and then I got to see the main show. Was that, I mean, I've absolutely sort of not been around friends I've grown up with, and I've gone back and hung out. And you're always kind of like, oh, this is going to be interesting. Are we going to fall into the old rhythms? Was it a nerve-wracking experience, or were you kind of like, oh, this will be a laugh. Let's do it. How did you frame it in your mind going into it?
I knew that whatever energy I was going to bring into it was going to be positive. That was my mission, and that's kind of where I'm at. If it had been, or 5 years previous, it wouldn't have been like that. Like, it didn't end on my time with the band didn't end on a great note. As much as you try to be civil and amicable, it just gets weird. And it's the same thing. Like, I've been through a divorce, and you try and make it as amicable and as quick and as easy as possible, and it just gets weird. And it takes time for things to get better. And part of me went, look, if I could have 3 bar mitzvahs with my ex-wife, for the sake of my kids, and have them go off well and be grown up enough to do that, then this band that I had fun with for 20 years should be easy. But when you start a band when you're 18, you basically grow up together, and that was the hardest thing for me in the early days of being solo, was that I didn't know how to not be in the band.
Right.
Like, that's all I knew how to do as an adult. And all of a sudden, I had to be my own person. 10 years later, I'd figured that part out.
You'd learned that new skill set. You felt comfortable with it now.
Yep, I was comfortable with where I'm at, what I'm doing. Was proud of that, and proud of what I did with the band. And I've really focused on all the good memories I have. And so walked into the room with that energy. And I think they just didn't know what to expect.
Did you sense like trepidation on their part?
Yeah, at first. And then it was just like, let's do this. We had some good laughs over a few things and started singing. And we rehearsed like the day before you saw our rehearsal as well. And it was easy and it was fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's always interesting because I think like whenever you're in such a sort of successful and big band, and then big bands break up, fans always have trouble sort of understanding, like, oh, why can't they just sort of work it out? Why can't they reconcile?
Sure.
What makes it so difficult for? I mean, here's the thing: if you never walked in the shoes, you don't know. No one knows the stress, the pressures, the sort of things that go on. But why does it? What makes it so difficult for, I think, like bands to reconcile and maybe go back? Is it just like you said?
I think it's like a divorce, or it's like, I try to. I mean, I try not to even respond anymore. People still are like, just just man up and go back, or just man up and let them back in the band, or whatever they always say. Like, just get together and
whatever
do it
the
for
angle
fans.
is. Yeah,
and it's like as if it was something easy, or something that we would even want. Like the fact that maybe we don't want to play together doesn't seem to be an option for some fans. Like,
sure.
Do it for the fans, like as if it was do it for the kids or something. But you can't. There are so few people who can go back to a previous relationship. Imagine, being in a work situation of any sort that turned bad.
Sure.
And then people keep saying, go back to work for that person that you didn't work, that ended badly with. People are going to try to avoid that as much as they can, especially if they feel like they've made some good career choices since then, or on a personal level, like most people don't go back to their ex-spouses, especially after a breakup. You'll learn to move on, and hopefully learn to be civil with each other if you need to be. So the fact that we actually did get to play together again was a big, was a gift to us and hopefully to the fans too.
Yeah, it's interesting. Fans tend not to. I find this with athletes and musicians, is they don't realize that it is a place of work, and they can never sort of make the connection where it's like you said. If I left, if for whatever reason things didn't work out at my job and I didn't want to go back, and someone's like, "I'll just go back after 10. It'll be fine."
Yeah.
Or everybody will want to do this together. We'll all work together, and it's just like they don't frame it that way because music is such a fun pursuit, and it seems almost like a hobby. They don't see it as a business or a career or whatever, a workplace.
And that's. I mean, I see that on so many levels, and I've written, especially in the last 2 records, a lot about that. The idea of, making art as a vocation, as a job.
It's a difficult thing to negotiate for artists.
That's right. And how do you yourself, when you have people treating you both as a provider of a commodity, so it's a business. You have this business relationship with your fan base, the fans who demand to be treated like customers. On one point, your album was too long, it was too short, it was too much treble, it was too much bass, like whatever quality control issues, like it's crazy stuff like that. So they people want a relationship that's a business relationship, and then they want a relationship that is somehow a spiritual relationship.
Visceral.
With you. Yeah, that's right. And if you don't sing what they want to believe, if you don't keep the narrative going of your friendship with the other guys in your former band, or your political stance, or whatever else, then you get cut off from people. And that's okay. I don't mind having those lines drawn. I want to be clear about who I am, but I also want to be able to be allowed to change. But I don't want to be made to feel bad about my choice of career, like as if it's not a real job.
Do you find yourself feeling bad?
Yeah, like I've finally gotten to a point where I'm able to forgive myself for enjoying my job.
Interesting.
Because it's, now I'm finally feeling like, yeah, it's hard work, but I don't have to justify that to anybody. In fact, I wish it was a lot less hard work than it is.
Sure.
I love doing the shows. I love having written songs. I don't love writing songs. It's painful.
But now that you got them.
But I love having written them. And I like having them in my catalog. And I like being able to go to shows. I don't like all the travel and all the time away from home. And, it's a heartbreaking thing to do, too. Like when it doesn't, even creatively, you work on something and you'll listen back and go, that was not what I was trying to do, and you got to scrap stuff. It takes a lot out of takes a lot of energy, and it takes its toll on your family, on your own self. So to question whether as if it was somehow not a real job, and I think professional athletes are just about the only other people who get that. I guess actors sometimes too.
Sure.
But why is it that in the arts that we get this sense from our audience that we don't work hard enough. We don't like. I don't think
There's a sense of be grateful in a weird way,
Yeah.
and then like you're not living up to my perception of how you should be. And
That's
it's like,
right.
well, at the end of the day, I'm still just a person. Like you're a person to your kids and your family,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Yeah, that's right. But like, you know, I'm grateful for the life that I've had.
Yeah.
You know, and that's but yeah, you have to like thank the fans at every turn, which is a weird thing. Like,
Sure.
does Tim Cook have to thank the fans at every turn? You know, we're announcing the Apple Watch 4. Thanks everybody for sticking with us through iterations 1, 2, and 3.
yeah, there's a lot of bugs in those early ones,
Yeah.
but we're here now. and-
Yeah, and you know, and yeah, even though he's not with us anymore, I want you to know I still think of Steve Jobs every day.
I miss them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, it's not the same kind of world.
To that
anywhere
point,
else.
though, do you talk about being in a band since you were 18 with these guys? Do you ever miss the friendship sort of?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
sure. There's lots of stuff that I miss. There's lots of stuff but miss is I'm nostalgic for in a sense. Like when I think of something we laughed our heads off about, or something that happened on stage, or an improv we did one night,
Yeah.
or whatever. I just enjoy telling the stories to my friends. Like I'll be like, "Oh God, there's this thing we did," and you watch people's faces glaze over because it's not half as funny to them as it is to me.
Yeah, sure.
And then you go, "Okay, that's just a real story about me and my friends."
Yeah.
I like that stuff. So when I got to see the guys at the Junos, that was the nicest thing, was to be able to just kind of see where everybody's at now. I mean, I didn't get enough time to really dig deep, but that's okay. I didn't need to. I wanted to see what the kids looked like, and
Yeah, sure.
now they're grown up and that kind of thing.
Yeah. This is actually just a personal question because the song "It's All Been Done," obviously it was a big hit, and I always love when it gets that third verse. Like, and you can speak to this because I have the writer sitting right here. And when you go through the sort of 3 verses, you're talking about this person that you've had this relationship with, obviously through the years, metaphorically. And at the end, in the third verse, when you get to the part about seeing them on The Price Is Right, and you don't know if you'll laugh or you'll smile as they run down the aisle, that's a double allusion, right, to the idea of maybe seeing this person you used to be with get married, or is it literally just Price Is Right?
See, I hate answering this question.
You don't have to answer it.
No,
but I was
because
like,
I don't want to ruin it for you.
I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna ask it," because I when I listen to that song, that line speaks to me, man.
When I wrote it, I was only thinking about The Price Is Right.
There you go.
But I have thought about it since, and it's funny how songs like that change. Like songs, when you sing them, sometimes they don't reveal themselves to you until later.
Yeah.
As the writer, like I was saying about Brian Wilson, where I wasn't completely. I don't think I fully understood that it was really a song about my own mental
You're
health.
talking about
struggles.
yourself.
And that it was about depression, because I don't think I had ever, at that point in my life, I don't think I had identified that that's what I had struggled with. I was only writing about the symptoms, not knowing what the condition was. But like even on this new record, there's a song, "Looking for the Light," where I was writing it with Craig Northey, and we were talking about writing a song that had like a spiritual kind of vibe, like a sense, listening to 60s and 70s R&B music and thinking about this connection to spirituality in those songs, and how I feel like so much of that is such, like, I can't write songs like that. I'm too pragmatic, and I'm too analytical, and too atheistic.
Interesting.
And so I just, how can I love that music, and how can it move me and touch me when I'm so quick to write off religiosity anywhere else, and in a song like "Gravity," which makes fun of religion over science and those kinds of things. So how can I get some of that? How can I express some of that without betraying myself, without singing something that I don't believe?
Sure.
So that was the mission of Looking for the Light, was how to write a song that felt like it was about being spiritual in a dark time,
Without maybe personally being very spiritual.
right? Or without having to rely on God and Jesus.
Or the construct of religion.
That's
maybe?
right.
Yeah, okay.
In the way that those songs that I admire are built on. They're built on that foundation, and I don't have that foundation as a human. It's not in me. But it wasn't until quite recently, as I've been rehearsing the song, I'm realizing like this feels like a song to my kids, which all of a sudden felt very emotional to me because I hadn't thought of that when I was writing it, but now I won't stop thinking of it while I'm singing it. And that's the amazing thing about songs re-informing themselves as they grow.
Well, we're going to wrap it up. I could talk to you forever, man, but obviously you got to go. But thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
And I just want the song "Break Your Heart." My brother made me put this in here. He said he wanted to know the whole backstory because me and my friends we got drunk and we take our shirts off, and many guys have been screaming the lyrics to that song at times about breaking your heart. So anyway,
awesome.
you brought us a lot of good times, my friends.
Thank you very much.
So thank you so much. Welcome to the desserts, where our pop culture aficionado comes on. His name's Shane Cunningham. It's like I haven't been doing this for 100. I'm all over the place today. But it's not just Shane, because if you were listening off the top, our friend and Pedestal,
There it is.
our friend and Pedestal co-host Jonathan Popalis has decided to hang around for the dessert.
All Mensa all the time.
That's me.
Yep.
And Jewish. Quarter
Yeah,
Jewish.
quarter
All Mensa,
Jewish.
1/4 Jewish.
1/4 Jewish.
Shaney, what do you got for us, buddy?
Well, this one's a strange one because we're going to be throwing to an interview that I did. I talked to a hero of mine, and it's he created a video game called ToeJam Earl.
Okay.
Oh. That was a very, very popular video game. I'm not a video game guy, but I remember that video game.
Well,
I don't know it at all.
the good thing about the creator of this, his name's Greg Johnson. He created this game for people who don't like video games, who aren't video game people, and that's his whole thing. And I'm technically not a video game person, but the ones I love, I get very obsessive about, and I especially love the games from the 80s and early 90s. Sega Genesis games
So
especially.
you were a Genesis guy, because if you like ToeJam and Earl.
Absolutely.
you like
Genesis.
Sonic the Hedgehog?
I hated Sonic the Hedgehog.
Interesting.
I loved Mario, but when it came to Sega, I loved their version of NBA Jam better than Super Nintendo's version of NBA Jam. And ToeJam Earl obviously became my favorite game. So a couple of years ago when I was courting my wife, I bought
Sounds so proper.
I bought when I was fucking the shit out of her. Am I right, boys? So
Didn't you borrow the Nuts house on your first date with Alex, your now wife?
I did,
Yeah.
because I wanted to impress her with I was like, look at my rich friends. This is the life for you. I didn't know she had this massive
the life
house of her
for
own.
you.
Well, it was where we always slag the Nut on the pod. It might be nice just to give him a little prop up
Nice
there.
house.
Thanks, Nut. Anyway, I bought the Sega Genesis, and I was like, hey, this is a favorite game growing up. I wonder if you want to try it out.
This is all at the Nuts house?
What a Lothario. Don Juan over here. Milady, would you like to play some ToeJam and Earl?
But I caught you.
My friend is a giant house. I have a refurbished Sega.
Refurbished.
But anyway, she started playing, and we got re-addicted. Well, I got re-addicted. She became addicted to ToeJam and Earl. And then when I started getting more experimental with the desserts, I was like, geez, I can really use this platform to kind of contact people and say, I'm from the Canadian MTV. Could I interview you for this very respected podcast? We've had Noel Gallagher, all these people on it, etc. I send him the Noel Gallagher interview.
Ooh.
And I'm like, I'm not that guy, but I am. I am.
know. Guy
You're not Noel, but I am on Noel.
You're not Noel.
I'm not him. I'm not him, but you're not Noel, so let's make it work.
but I'm like, I am on this respected podcast. Anyway, the guy agrees. It's like a 45-minute interview. And again, one of the good parts about being on the dessert is that it's at the very end. And if you don't want to listen, you just shut it off. It's not that big of a hassle. So this might be our longest episode yet, but this is fair warning that this is for video game nerds. And maybe if you're not a nerd, it's for people who love ToeJam from the 90s, because a new game is coming out. This has been 25 years in the making.
Wow.
It's called ToeJam and Earl Back into Groove. It's coming out on PS4, PC, and Nintendo Switch. And I have been... Max is letting out the biggest...
Max is asleep on the floor
We
right
look
now.
over he's gone from the chair and the microphone's just sitting on the chair.
But I can't tell you how excited I was for this release. And Greg Johnson, the creator of the game, he promised me that it would be out this November. So I've been counting down the days. It's been delayed to 2019 after it already was delayed in 2017.
You got to get Mr. Johnson to send you some goods.
He did.
What? You've played it?
He sent me this special card. It's called a I forget what it's called, but it has a special code and it gives you access to the game.
Like the demo of
it?
Oh.
But
on PC, like a dongle.
Yes,
kinda.
it's on PC, and he sent me a T-shirt. So Greg was really into how into the game I was, and I really nerd out, as you'll listen to if anyone does proceed with this. I guess I'll throw to this interview and people can give it a whirl.
Yeah.
And no pressure to listen, folks. I know this is very unorthodox.
Old school gaming stuff is amazing. I listen to every old school gaming podcast, like Retronauts.
It's unorthodox,
Me
but
too,
not as
yeah.
unorthodox as John.
It's true,
I'm
because that's a
pretty
Jewish
orthodox.
thing.
I'm a quarter orthodox.
Oh, my bad.
But, okay, throw to the interview, and thank you very much for appearing on this episode. John Popalis, Mensa member, 6'5".
ToeJam Earl coming at you.
I'm excited for this interview.
All right.
Yeah, man.
All right, I gotta go. Let's wrap it up.
That's a Me Too from Max.
Hello, this is Greg.
Hi, this is Shane Cunningham from Mike on Much Podcast.
Hi, Shane. Nice to meet you.
Man, I can't believe I'm actually talking to the creator of my favorite game right now.
That's funny.
How did your career in gaming even begin? Like, everyone as a kid says, I want to design video games, but obviously it takes a special aptitude. When did you realize you had what it takes?
That's funny. I didn't say I wanted to do video games because nobody said that, because they didn't exist yet. when I was a kid, even when I started, I'm a little older. I'm 58, and so.
Oh, you do not look that old at all. Wow.
Oh, thanks. That's nice of you to say that. Yeah, so I've been around, when I started doing video games, it was right around 1981, maybe. This was when I was still in college, and my roommate brought home an Atari 600, and it was the first time I had seen a home console. It was really the very, very early days. Before that, it was just like Pac-Man and Pong and Space Wars, vector graphics games in bowling alleys and stuff like that. So it was totally new, totally amazing and exciting and kind of mind-blowing at the time. I remember standing behind him going, oh my gosh, what is that? And I worked at Scripps Institute back in those days, kind of getting myself prepared for that further education and in communication research. But then this video game thing happened, and it was just so captivating and exciting. I thought I would take a year off before going to grad school and just try it and get involved with this project that my roommate had started getting involved with called Starflight, and one of Electronic Arts' first games. And then I took another year, and Starflight finally came out, and it was so exciting and fun. I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll do the sequel to that, and then I'll go back to grad school. And look, here it is 34 years later, and I'm still wondering if I'm going to go back to grad school, but thinking, well, maybe I'll do one more game first.
How would you describe in your own words ToeJam Earl?
Oh, well, I've described it in so many ways. Usually what I say is, I start by saying it's a roguelike game, because then people kind of get the gameplay in general, but instead of going down into a dungeon, you're going up levels, and it's very cooperative, very lighthearted, musical, and has the theme of two aliens who crash landed on the planet. So there's a lot of satirical humor kind of built into it, but it's kind of subtle. It's not trying to be heavy-handed with its messaging. It's more just like there to have a good time, and if it makes you think a little bit about who you are and about this insane world we're in and about not taking life quite so seriously, then great. But if it just makes you laugh and enjoy a little time with your friends or family, okay, cool too.
It's one of those games you can tell it was designed with two-player in mind, whereas some games you feel like it was a one-player game and they just tacked on a two-player element. I feel like this is almost the opposite. Would I be right in assuming that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was very consciously made as a two-player game. Now, in fact, for this new one, we've put a lot of energy into expanding that, into making it into an exciting 3 and 4 player game experience as well. But yeah, like right from the beginning, Mark Vorsanger, who's the fellow I made the original games with, and to this day, just the best of friends. He and I wanted to make a game. To be quite honest, it wasn't even made as a game for 2 players for other people. It was made for me and Mark. We wanted to make a game that we could enjoy playing together and enjoy the whole process of making, and then that just kind of translated into a game that was fun for other people.
You said the guy's name, it was Mark.
Oh, yeah, Mark Vorsanger.
If this was like a Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak situation, would you be the Steve Jobs or the Steve Wozniak? Or are you both?
Well, I think neither, because both Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak are a lot smarter and more technical than I am. I did the design and the artwork, and Mark did all of the engineering, and some pretty phenomenal engineering too back in those days.
Yeah.
You know, that Sega told us we couldn't do the split screen, and he was like, oh yeah, I bet we can. And then like within a month he had it up and running, and
it's one of the smoothest 2-player transitions ever. It'll go to a full screen when the 2 players are in the same area together, and then when you venture off a certain distance, it splits into this seamless split screen.
Yeah. Isn't that cool? I always thought I'd see more people copying that after we did it, because it was very effective. I haven't seen that very much. It still, to this day, kind of remains something fairly unique to ToeJam and Earl. And then we took that in this new game, and we actually put a lot of work into making the screen split dynamically with 3 and 4 players.
So the screen is splits into 4 spots now?
Yeah, it does. But we try to make it dynamic so that if 2 or 3 of the players happen to be together, the screen combines so that you see yourselves in one section of the screen. If it's always split, like, you know, some 4-player games, like some Nintendo games, will keep the screen always split into 4 quadrants, you don't get quite as strong of a feeling of playing together. There's just this kind of visceral feeling when you actually see yourself on the same screen.
I was just wondering, you and Mark are still close friends. You don't hear of him being involved anymore. Did he just, after he'd kind of engineered the first game, did he just want to be bought out and not continue making sequels and trilogies and with the ToeJam series?
Oh, no, not at all. He actually left the game industry to go on to do other stuff. He just had other interests, you know. He's a very atypical engineer because he's more of a people person than a code machine person.
Right.
So that was always, even when we were working on the project, a little bit of a struggle for him because he felt kind of an internal calling to be working with people more than just sitting at his computer. So he's gone on to be like a personal counselor and, you know, helps people solve their life problems.
So he has no involvement in the new game?
Just kind of on the sidelines. You know, we get together for dinner and I fill him in on what's happening, and he checks out where we're at and kind of gives me encouragement and support. But he's given me a lot of faith to take it and basically go with it.
So a game like this, working out the glitches has to be the most annoying thing in the world. Like, it has to be never ending.
Yeah, well, especially for a game like this. Just imagine, right? Any game is hard, and I've done so many over the years, and any developer will tell you that it's hard just to predict. It's hard to stay on schedule. There's always technical issues. But when you have a game where everything is random, so it's different every time, both the terrain and all of the distribution of all of the elements are completely random in this game. And then you have all these different modes, because we've got like fixed mode, tutorial mode, random mode, hard mode. We've got all the different difficulty levels for any individual player. In fact, you can play normal mode or easy farty mode or toddler mode. And then you've got multiple players, so that, you know, you've got all these different things happening all the time with all these combinations. And then you add network play on top of that, and then you add consoles on top of that. It's just insane.
It's almost infinite.
So, you know, yeah, it is. So it's been a real challenge debugging this thing and getting it clean and solid. And our fans have been super patient. And, you know, it's a little hard for them, of course, to have a view into that and to understand why is it taking so long. But once you step into that world and you see what's involved, you go, oh my gosh, how is this even possible?
Because this
You know?
game was supposed to be released 2017, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we ran the Kickstarter originally in March 2015. Yeah, you know, I'd say the networking just alone added at least a year to the project. We vastly underestimated the amount of work and time that was going to be. I think it will pay off. You know, the real magic for this game, like you already said, is the multiplayer aspect of it. And because it was so, people have such powerful memories about it from years gone by. Now there's a lot of people who have gone their separate ways who still want to play together and reconnect. So having that online ability is going to be important, I think, for people who've, you know, moved apart to still play. So, but it's been hard. Yeah, a lot of work.
Oh, well, yeah, I've been one of those fans just waiting. Like last year, I was like, it's going to come out around Christmas time. My wife and I are obsessed with this game. We play it. We have a big projector in our bedroom. We play it. Now we have a child, actually. So I was like, so I'm going to have to buy a new console. What would you recommend? Like, should I buy the Nintendo Switch?
Yeah, you know, well, it's going to be on the Switch and the PS4 and the Xbox One.
What would be closest to my Sega in terms of what I'm used to? Because I still play ToeJam almost every day on Sega.
Gosh, they're very similar in terms of the gameplay experience. I think actually, at least for right now, the best gameplay experience is probably, if you're looking for the absolute smoothest, fastest, best, is probably on the PC, because that's where we've put most of our effort, at least to date, and then we're porting it. And so it's going to take us a little while to get the other ports probably quite up to that same level, all of them.
I actually found a glitch on the original ToeJam, and I was like, oh, I wonder if Greg knows that this one exists. Did you know that if you're using Icarus wings and you're flying around and then you open the togetherness, what happens? Have you ever done that before?
No, I don't. I can't remember. I don't think so.
Okay, so if you have Icarus and then you open togetherness, you'll kind of start spiraling out of control and you'll start flying off a bunch of levels and you'll start swinging back and forth on the screen.
No kidding.
It's really cool, actually.
That's a new one to me.
Oh, wow. Okay, I got you.
How funny.
All right.
You did. Yeah, how about that? I'm going to have to try that. We've got it set up. Matt set it up in our conference room with the original game and a Genesis and even on a CRT that we've got, old TV. I'll try that.
And my wife wanted me to ask you, because we debate this. Do Icarus wings make you go faster when the shadow is over a road, or do you go the same speed while you're flying?
That's a really good question. Dang, if I know the answer to that. It's been too many years. I might have known that way back when. That's I guess that wasn't a high enough priority item to stick in my brain all this time. I don't know. I'm going to guess that it doesn't make you go faster, but that's just, I'm taking a random shot, really.
And my wife is convinced that you can go faster in the cheese with spring shoes, but I think it's the same speed. I don't think it helps. Do you know that?
Wait, in the cheese? What do you mean?
Yeah, you know that orange stuff. Is that not cheese? What is that supposed to be on the ground?
No. Oh, I see. That's so funny. No, that's sand. It is sand.
Oh, we always called it cheese. Oh.
Cheese. Yeah, okay, sure. You know, is the Earth viewed through alien eyes? It could just as well be cheese. Why not?
Do the spring shoes help you go through the sand? Like if you're just hopping without jumping. Yeah. Is that true? Because I told my wife that's not true, but she's convinced she goes faster when she's just hopping along with spring shoes. Not actually using the spring jump, but just when you're just hopping in the spring shoes.
You know, it may very well be. I don't think you sunk into the sand when you had spring shoes on, so I think probably your velocity is probably unchanged. So it may be, she may be right, and I'd guess that it is the case that crossing the sand on spring shoes just means you won't slow down, because sand did sort of have this increasing effect on your velocity. The longer you were in it, it slowed you more. So probably, yeah.
Okay.
It's a good strategy. High five with your wife.
You don't play ToeJam very often, I take it, like the original.
Not the old one
No.
so much. I mean, I play the new one every single day for the last 3.5 years.
How do you find the balance? Because obviously in the new game, ToeJam Earl, Back in the Groove, I feel like number one is the template pretty much. And you took some elements from Planet on Funkatron, which was the second one. But it feels like the base is the first one. Why do you think that one connected so much with people over the other two games of the ToeJam series? And how did you find the balance to take from that first game and make it new at the same time?
Well, it's funny, a lot of people who played Game 2 first liked that game better. Usually what you see first is what you connect with most.
Right.
Still, because Game 1 was Game 1, and the first, it sort of established its identity of ToeJam and Earl in out there in the, world's mind. So when I wanted to kind of go back to the roots, to like the origin, that felt like the purest way to do it, to go straight back to the beginning and the original idea of the game. But like you said, there were still elements from Game 2 that I felt like worked really well and that people really liked. One of the ways I chose what to do, partly some of it was obvious, like the rhythm matching, in Game 1 was sort of outside the game as the jam out, and it was kind of cute, but it was very separate and very primitive. So I wanted to take that from Game 2, from Panic on Funkatron, and we actually amped that up a little bit more, too. We made it multiplayer, so you can do that together now with people, and we also added this element where you can create your own rhythms in addition to matching the rhythms, and then it's kind of fun. Your friends get to match the rhythms that you make up. So there's that, and we took the hyperfunk zone. That also was something actually a lot of the fans had said that they really loved and were hoping they would see again, especially those people who were more partial to Game 2. That was one of the things they called out and asked for. And then things like, in Game 2 we had the buttons and the meters, coin meters, and those changed. That was kind of fun and gave you. So we added that, and
it looks like the element of shaking out things to get gifts. It looks like that element,
right?
Yeah.
And in fact, even right down to the bowling balls coming out and landing on your head, that's there too in this game. Another example, once you finish a game, you get to go to Funkatron and wander around and talk to everybody just like you did in Game 1. Now there's a little bit more there, and it's a little more exciting, but you get to meet up with Lamont, the great Funkopotamus, and he offers you a power hat. You get to choose which one of 3 you want out of like 30 or so that we have. And then from then on, every time you play the game, after that, when you come out on a level, you get to choose to wear one of your power hats that basically change your stats or give you some additional power, and it kind of changes up the game a little bit so that every time you play the game in the future, it's a little bit different.
And I heard there is a level 0 also in this game.
You bet, yeah. Yeah, that was one of the very first things people asked about. Yeah. Oddly enough, so it's there, and of course, just like everything else, is better. You can go sit in the hot tub, and there's a lot of conversations. One of the things we did is we put a little kind of RPG conversation style engine into this game, so you can actually talk to characters, all the friendly characters in the game. All the friendly characters sparkle in this game, so you can see who's a friendly and who's not, but you can go up to any of them and talk to them, and you get to choose what you want to say sometimes, and they'll give you things or ask you questions, and so you can chat with the hula girls. There's hula guys now on level 0 as well as hula girls, And
you design all these infinite possibilities of conversation and et cetera. That's all you deciding that?
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, I wrote all of that. That's one of the most fun parts of this whole project. So I love doing that. In fact, one of the fun things too about this new game is we've got instead of just ToeJam and Earl, there's 9 playable characters,
and they all interact differently with each other, don't they?
They do. Yeah, that's the thing.
God.
I was going to say, you're exactly right. Yeah, they all have their own dialogue. So even when you're playing single player, they say different things. It's especially fun when you're playing them in combinations because then they say different things to each other. They each have their own kind of relationship. So it's kind of fun to replay the game, with different characters. And it's even kind of weird and funny to play. We've got we had done a new design for ToeJam and Earl to kind of update them a little bit and age them up. But one of the things we heard from our players early on was we want them the way they looked before. Don't change them.
Of course, nostalgia.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So we made that very early on. We made that we ended up putting that into the game. So now you can choose to play in the new ToeJam or the original ToeJam. Same with Earl. So it's kind of odd and funny when you've got two players and one's playing as the new ToeJam, the other's playing as the original ToeJam, and the two characters are talking to each other, and they're both a little confused and put out by the fact that the other guy is like...
It's like Back to the Future.
So much like them. Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If I had one complaint about the ToeJam and Earl 1 is Earl.
Just one.
He's just slow. Are they going to move a little bit faster?
Yeah, well, Earl is still a little slower than ToeJam, certainly. But one of the things we added in this new game is all the characters have stats. So speed is one of the 5 stats that you have. There's also like the amount you can carry in your inventory, your life bar, your presence skill, and your luck. And so every time you get promoted by the wise man in the carrot suit, in the original game, your life bar got a little longer and you got a new rank title, and that was it. In this game, when you get promoted, your life bar still gets longer, but you also get your stats bumped. There's
so
a spinner, and
faster.
3 of your stats. Yeah, 3 of your stats get bumped at random, so you never quite know what's going to happen. It's sort of in the spirit of this game, is it's always a surprise. But yeah, so your character can get faster. There's also a variety of things in the game that help you get faster. We've got, like I mentioned, the power hats. We've got power hats that make you go faster, and we've also got a whole lot of presents that speed you up in a variety of ways. So,
is there still a randomizer?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's the worst gift, right? Like, you can't get worse than the randomizer.
It's funny though. I was going to really tone that down because I thought that was something that was really frustrating for people. And on our forum, people were like, "No, you can't."
It makes the game a perfect challenge. Is the and it teaches you patience. Honestly, when I was young, I was like, okay, there's 2 ways to do the game: just lucky or actually do it the smart way. Save your money and don't open your gifts until you get to the carrot man. Use the randomizer. It actually made me a more patient person today.
Okay, great.
Now I have to talk about the music. Now, how does that bass line not irritate me? Like, I can play the game a million times. It feels very repetitive, yet I never get annoyed by the bass line. Who came up with that?
Yeah, well, that's nice to hear. I'm glad that's not driving you crazy after all these years. I came up with that, and in fact, pretty much all the bass lines, at least originated with me. I do a lot of singing in the shower and recording myself whenever I get ideas like that. So for about half of the original songs and pretty much all of the new songs, they start kind of with me doing that process of singing the different parts these days into my cell phone. Yeah, and then I work with really great, talented musicians who could take my my vocal mess and listen to it and go, oh yeah, I get what you're going with that, and then turn it into music. So back in those days, it was John Baker and Mark Miller, and these days it was Burke Trishman and Cody Wright and Nick Stubblefield, and especially Cody. He was the bassist and guitar player for this new game, and he actually is a really amazing rising star in the music industry. He's like on the cover of Bassist magazine. He tours all over the world with all these famous people in the jazz world, and he started playing bass apparently because of ToeJam and Earl. So he contacted me when we did our Kickstarter and said, "Hey, can I come and play for you?" And I'll do it for free, and I'll fly out there. And
oh wow!
And as soon as I found out who he was, it's exactly what I said. Like, oh wow, seriously? Oh my gosh, yes.
A game like ToeJam and Earl, obviously there's a huge nostalgia factor. So does that mean that more adults or people my age, I'm 35, are going to be playing this game than kids, or do you think it's going to be kind of like a 50-50 split?
Oh, it'll certainly start with the adults and all the nostalgic people. I think pretty quickly they're going to bring in all of their kids and younger siblings and, sort of indoctrinate them in the ways of the funk, the new generation. But most of the fans out there are about your age, people who had it as a part of their childhood and have a connection to it already.
Like, a filmmaker, when they make a film, they go, oh, I don't just want it to be successful for the money. They say, if I make this film and it is successful, it will enable me to make more films. Is that the case in the gaming world, or is it like you're just going to be making games even if this is a flop? Not that it would be, obviously.
Yeah, it's very, very true in the gaming world. The whole entertainment industry is like that, and probably other industries as well, but especially in this business that's so hit-driven and so subjective. Having success just enables you to do more, give you more freedom to create down the road. So that's absolutely, for people like me who just want to be building stuff, it's incredibly valuable to have that. So fingers crossed. I have other personal goals too for this game aside from just making money, which of course would be nice. But I really want probably my biggest single criteria is if people like you who played the original game, who especially shared it with somebody they care about and are excited to relive those kind of feelings and that nostalgia. If they play this new game, and if you feel like, yes, this hits the spot, this takes me back, and lets you reconnect with things that matter to you, then I'll feel like we've succeeded.
So for the people who have contributed to the Kickstarter, obviously they were super fans. You actually gave them a little taste of the game for like a 2-week trial period, which actually I think turned into a month after it was all said and done. Did you get that feeling that you did reach your goal of, hey, these people are satiated?
Yeah, yes. So all indications are good. All the feedback we got was that we're on track, and we got a lot of feedback, of course, of tweaky stuff that people wanted us to change, and so we did a lot of rebalancing and modifying things, and we got a lot of great ideas, not all of which we had time to incorporate, but some of which we did. So that was pretty invaluable for a number of reasons, but yeah, to answer your question, I did feel like I'm very hopeful from that. And also from PAX. We just came back from PAX West in Seattle, where we showed the game for 4 days, and we had a constant stream of people, mostly fans, of the game, who were sitting down and playing it. And everybody seemed to feel like, yep, this is it. This is, this is the pure ToeJam Earl blast I've been waiting for. So.
And I guess unlike the film world, when you hear of a bunch of delays when a film's not getting released or if a studio drops it or something like that, it's usually a sign that the film's not going to do too well. But in the video game world, it's just getting better, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. And if you look at most games that are really successful out there, you'll see that that's a very common thread, that they were delayed, they had time to cook. It takes a while to actually iterate and to learn the things that you don't know, because you think you know it all, you think you've got all the answers, and you rush to get it done and then get it out, and it's kind of a disaster when you find out all of the things you didn't realize, after the fact. So I've been grateful, even though it's been kind of rough to have delays and to have to deal with a lot of technical issues. That's also given us more time, because while we're dealing with that, we're also play testing and seeing other things that we want to tweak and fix. So, yeah, you're quite right.
And on your website, Human Nature, it says something to the effect of you make games for people who don't like video games or who aren't necessarily super into video games. Why do you choose to do that? Is it because those are the games you like to play yourself? Are you not necessarily a typical gamer?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the reasons. That is kind of who I am, and so I want to make games that resonate with me personally. I'm not a really hardcore gamer. At a philosophical level, it's also because I believe in people and in connecting people together. I want to make games that allow people to share experience, whether it's a cooperative multiplayer game or even not. Still games that allow people to share the experience with other people in their lives who may not be hardcore gamers. There is that aspect of gaming that can isolate people, and I always find that a little bit unfortunate when there's so much potential to bring people together, and that's what I value.
Yeah, because I find ToeJam Earl's the only game I'm still obsessed with. Like, I've grown out of all the other games.
Yeah, I've been surprised at how broad the appeal is for the property in general, and this project has allowed me to, more than ever, to hear from fans all their personal stories and testimonials and their childhood memories and all of that. It's been great. I'm grateful. I get an opportunity to see all of that firsthand.
Well, thank you so much for making this game. I could not... My wife, by the way, never played video games as a kid, and she played ToeJam Earl for the first time at age 27, and she loves it. And she's just as excited as I am. So thank you so much. Like, it really is, especially now that we have a child, it's a great thing for us to do while we're kind of trapped in our home, looking after the baby and not being able to go out as much. So it's a great thing that this game couldn't have come at a better time.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Well, I look forward to hearing what you think after you've played for a little while. And
oh, yeah, I'm going to shoot you an email.
Maybe your kid will be playing with you before too long. We've got toddler mode in there, too, and you can play all three of you at once. So get
that'll
ready
be amazing.
For that, too.
And lastly, what I loved when I was young about the original game was, I found when I beat a video game, I was always disappointed by the ending.
I had the same feeling as you, always. It's always a little anticlimactic to hit the end and then just go, oh, it's done. And
yeah, there's the credits. It's over, yeah.
Right. Congratulations, you finished. And you're like, oh. So, that same idea still holds true, and we put some energy into making Funkotron a little more interesting, and we buried a few surprises there, too. Talk I won't tell you where you can go, but you can go somewhere and actually from Funkotron to the North Pole and go talk to Santa and get some cool stuff. And Trixie, I don't know if you remember Trixie the mermaid, she's still there somewhere on Funkotron, and all of the friends, your Funkotronian friends are there you can have conversations with, and you can unlock the new characters on Funkotron. They ask you, hey, can I go with you from now on? And you can choose who can join you on your future adventures. There's even we even buried a whole backstory between ToeJam and Earl. So after you've played the game a few times, when you're playing as ToeJam and Earl, they'll start talking to each other, and you'll hear this whole backstory of theirs. And then when you get to Funkotron, there's something that's a little bit different there. There's a new character there that's part of that backstory. So we tried to really make that ending experience kind of more, just more satisfying.
So you can unlock characters and then have them in perpetuity.
Yeah,
Wow.
New player characters, yeah. Like Earl's mom, for example, Flo. So you can you meet her on Funkotron. And
she's not going to be there from the onset of the game. You have to beat it before you can get her.
Yeah, that's right. So 6 of the 9 characters you have unlocked from the outset, and then 3 of them are hanging out on Funkotron. Geek Jam, Flo, and Peebo are all waiting around on Funkotron, and so you have to finish the game at least 3 times if you want to unlock all 3 of them.
And as far as ship pieces go, you still have to unlock pieces to the map. It doesn't tell you where the ship piece is located, does it? Because on YouTube, it seemed like some people were saying or complaining that the ship piece you can see right from when you get to the level where it is. Or is that new?
Oh, no, it's the same. It's the same as before. I'm not quite sure what that was all about, but it's the same. You still have to wander around until you find it.
Okay, good.
Once you uncover the tile that it's on the map, you can see it on the map, but you have to go find it first. And sometimes it's a little hard to find. you know?
Right, yeah, of
Just like
course.
before.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, 11-year-old Shane can't believe that he's talking to you right now.
Awesome. Nice. 11-year-old Shane. Cool.
All right. Well, thanks again. And I will definitely, I'm going to send you an email to give you my little review of the game, which I'm sure is going to be glowing.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right.
Really
Have a
appreciate
good
it.
one, Greg.
Alrighty, you too.
Bye-bye.
Take it easy, Shane.
That's it. That's all. That's our episode. Please check out the Pedestal, our new podcast. We're so proud of it. We're so excited. Thank you, John Popalis, for coming on the show.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you to Mr. Greg Johnson for coming on and talking to Shane about his new ToeJam Earl video game. Check that out when it comes out. Obviously, thanks to Stephen Page, who I love listening to his music. I love listening to him sing, and I'm so grateful that he sat down and talked to me for as long as we chatted. Max, anything else?
Yeah, the artwork's put together by Jenna Gregory and Tara Paquette. Huge thank you to them. Thanks to Greg Stewart for letting us use his office today to record this podcast. Add us to Instagram and Twitter on Mike on Much, and that's all.
At Mike on Much.
What did I say?
Yeah, you said on.
Whatever.
Whatever. The Mike on Much podcast is produced by Max Kerman. I'm your host, Mike Veerman. See you next week. We will die on the week.